the cost to the company. It is the cost of ownership of the product for the customer. Time is how quickly it can be brought into the marketplace to capture the marketplace, how quickly we can respond to changing dynamics of customer preferences. Quality is, as I said earlier, what we envision as quality to be put on the product. These are the three things, and reliability is one thing which affects the cost, which affects the time, and which is also driven by the quality. The agenda of today's presentation is, first we will introduce EGS India to you for people who do not know us, and then we look at the current challenges, understand what the DFQ process is all about, look at the essentials of it, benefits of the proposed process, summarize it, and then we will take the question towards the end of the program. Now, as far as EGS India is concerned, we started our company in 1993 after I returned from our US operations. I was working at Ford Motor Company, and we started EGS India almost till date. It is 27 years old. Our vision is engineering development through effective partnership. While mission, we try and achieve the vision by the mission statements, imparting leading edge technology in training and development, problem solving and new product development through consulting services, and providing software solutions and technical support. We have offices with our headquarters in Chennai, followed by our significant big operations in Coimbatore and Trichy, and we have a training division called Academics, where we provide training services to customers and practicing professionals in Chennai. The business model, as I said earlier, is engineering services, where we develop new products and technologies, validate new designs in terms of fit, form, and function, provide dimensional management services in terms of design for quality, and value engineering in terms of cost, rapidly turning it around in terms of time and qualitatively better products. In software solutions, we are known for representing Dassault Systems SolidWorks Corporation for their SolidWorks simulation and the PDM. EGS India has developed the live PLM and the APQP softwares for customers worldwide, implementing product lifecycle technologies as well as the advanced product quality planning. And then we represent Sigmund from Varatech Corporation in the US for their dimensional management tools. In technical training, we provide computer-aided engineering training in finite element analysis, vibrations, so many different topics, geometric dimensioning and tolerancing and tolerance stacks, failure modes and effects analysis, design for manufacture and assembly, and CAD and FEA popular tools. Now, any product development company starts with product development challenges that every day they face day in and day out. Assembly issues is paramount to most of the companies. 90 to 95% of the problems that is faced by the customer as well as the end customer as well as the service people are assembly related issues. Second comes the product failure issues. Third is higher product cost of product development, increased risks threatening the product success with time delays, and consistency in quality not being able to be achieved. When you look at the right side image, you will see a Stewart's platform, which is typically used in aerospace applications or space applications, in medical device applications, in so many different areas, wherein the platform takes different orientations and levels according to the actuators at the bottom. Now, commonly you can see that there are 6 actuators sitting over there. All the 6 actuators are manufactured by the same company using the same drawing, and they are assembled together, and you get assembly issues. The platform not being able to perform the requisite requirements and the variations coming into picture. So in other words, variations in any product as you manufacture leads to quality and reliability issues. At design stage, we always look at nominal dimensions. We always look at basic dimensions, ideal dimensions. However, in the real world, it is all driven by variations in the product as a result of how they are manufactured, how they are put together, and how they are used by people in the market space. We try and, as design engineers, we try and make sure that we capture all the different variations that the customer would put the product through. However, nature always has some surprises for us. Now, coming back to this particular product, you look at all the different issues. The same actuator is used 6 different times. So if you produce 30 different Stewart platforms, you have 180 actuators. If you look at each and every actuator, when you put it on the test bed, the individual actuator, they perform. When you put it as a platform, their performance is different. When you put it in service at the customer place, their performance is different. The quality issues that you get are different. There are so many different aspects which come in. If with a single product being used multiple times, if we have this problem, imagine what would happen if we had more number of products coming into the marketplace in our product. Which brings us to the next question. In terms of quality and reliability, it is always important that when we create a new design, we have to be conscious of the fact that the history of quality and reliability issues are not known in the design because the design does not have any previous history. So in other words, every company which is coming up with new products and technologies, the designs are coming without any history. So you are predicting in the future what the quality issues you are going to get, what are the reliability issues you are going to be able to address in the future, and then you are surmising it and you are putting the product together. Which means the reliability of any product driven with 100% new parts is always going to be circumspect. However, the same assembly comprising of many parts for which we have reliability already developed, the quality issues already resolved, the product has a better chance to perform in terms of quality and reliability. Which brings us to the next point. Should we use reusable designs? Absolutely. When you start using reusable designs, the quality and the reliability models for those parts which are being used in the assembly are known, as a result of which the assembly reliability becomes deterministic. The problem is most of the reliability software that people use are probabilistic models because reliability modeling itself is based on probabilistic approach. However, we are coming to a point wherein we need to marry the probabilistic approach which came about in the first place and the quantitative measures that are required in the industry today so that we can come up with a deterministic model. So in other words, in product development challenges, so many challenges are coming in. If we are able to put a process together by which we would be able to address all these challenges, then 9 out of 10 issues which arise otherwise would have been taken care of at the design stage itself. Any problem, whether it is qualitative or reliability wise an issue, if it is raised at the design stage and solved, it costs 1 rupee, let us say. The same problem, if it comes after it has been tooled up, it costs you 10 rupees, an order of magnitude more. If the problem is reported by your customer and you have gone through the rapid production phase, then it is another times magnitude higher, 100 rupees. So we need to take a call as to whether we want to douse the fire at 1 rupee, 10 rupees or 100 rupees. So this intent is to keep it at the design stage because design drives everything. Understanding the quality and reliability issues. We need to understand that we need to be consistent in terms of quality of assembly. So if you take any assembly, for example, the assembly shown over there is a switch breaker assembly, a tripper assembly, one of the units coming in that. If this assembly performs inconsistently, the end user gets a shock, which is inadmissible, which is not required, and the risk is too high for that. In other words, I develop it for nominal dimensions, but the components are produced at least material condition, at maximum material condition, or anywhere in between. The response time would be different. The faster the response time, the faster the person can save the life. The slower the response time, the probability of a fatal accident is higher. So in other words, we need to look at the implications of this, both at MMC as well as LMC or anywhere in between. So consistency in system performance at different variations as permitted in design needs to be understood. So there is to be a clear understanding of the cost-effect relationship for every quality and reliability issue the designer is conceiving based on the inputs from the manufacturing and the inspection team. Needless to say, the cross-functional team defined using the designers, the manufacturers, and the inspectors together are the authors of the drawing. Design department is just the publisher. In other words, the buying in from the manufacturing, buying in from the inspection has to be there before designer starts releasing the drawing for consumption by the manufacturing and the inspection subsequently. So the Q&R comes at a cost. What do I mean by coming at a cost? Quality and reliability can be given. Let us say I say 1 year warranty, that comes at a cost. 3-year warranty, that comes at a different cost. So the customer should be willing to pay for the additional cost, primarily because you have increased the warranty. So in other words, at the design department, I should be able to give to my marketing and sales, this product will work without any troubles, without any quality or reliability issues for 1 year minimum. This product at a different cost paradigm would give you a 3-year warranty. So in other words, you give different choices to the marketing and sales department so that they would be in a position to come up with orders based on the customer's preference in terms of quality and reliability. So in other words, there are different ways in which quality and reliability can be brought about. For example, I am designing a gearbox. I don't want the customer to come back to me for 30 years. The customer would forget you. If you say, I don't want the customer to have any issues for 5 years, then after 5 years, the customer comes back to you and becomes a repeated customer for you because he's a happy customer for you. Then you have won hands down. So if you classify all the issues that are there currently on your products, you will be able to resolve those issues are either assembly related or performance related. So which means the requirement of the Q&R objectives have to be measurable. They have to relate to the voice of the customer, which keeps changing all the time because customers sometimes do not know what they want. Sometimes do not know which is higher priority. So you have different mechanisms by which you can put this together. The house of quality is one of them. The QFD is one of them. It needs to be prioritized based on cost because cost is the driver and driven by warranty issues as stated by the customers. For example, I have a sheet metal cabinet. I'm giving it to the customer. Customer gives a feedback that the fit and finish is not good. That is not a reliability issue, but that's a quality issue. The customer says, when I open the cabinet, when you open it, it creaks, it makes a sound. Then it's a reliability issue in terms of noise and discomfort. The customer comes back and says, after 1 year of usage, the latch does not align because the hinges have worn out. That's a reliability issue. So in other words, the quality and the reliability issues have to be measurable in the specifications so that the designer can take it to the next level of protecting the same. So the quality and the reliability issues find their place in terms of risk assessment in the design failure modes and effects analysis. Commonly, people look at other people's product designs and come up with new products and technologies. Some people euphemistically call it as reverse engineering. It's not really reverse engineering. It's adopting another person's design. When a person adopts somebody else's design, we are inheriting the risks without knowing what they are in terms of quality and reliability. I would rather know exactly what my risks are by designing the components myself than to adopt somebody else's. So in other words, cutting and pasting DFMEA from one product to another is not going to achieve the purpose of enumerating the quality and reliability objectives and at the same time making sure that they are protected sacrosanct. So the risk priority number will enumerate how high are the risks, how low are the risks in terms of assembly and performance objectives. This is essential, this is critical. So in other words, based on the risk priority number, you could classify it as critical, essential, and desirable. When you mark it as critical, it comes on the drawing as inspection dimension. Essential, it could be as a part, incorporated as a part of the process itself so that it is satisfied. Desirable means it could be an additional attribute to the product that the customer would pay for in the event he chooses or desires to buy it. So now, coming to the next aspect, we need to be very clear that the design for assembly has to be protected because I told you earlier, 9 out of 10 issues come as a result of assembly, or the integrity of the assembly is always challenging. So the first thing we need to understand is in design for assembly, we need to look at the sequence of assembly. Unless we know the sequence of assembly, we cannot create the drawings with the associated tolerances. I repeat, without knowing the sequence of assembly, it's a no-brainer to put a drawing together with their associated tolerances. Alignment with respect to the design for quality and reliability objectives is sacrosanct. It cannot violate. I will give you a simple example. Year before last, there is a company called Takata, which manufactures airbags. It's 51% owned by Honda in Japan. 90% of the world market uses Takata airbags. The problem which came from the field was the airbags get deployed even if the accident is not happening. In other words, a person drives the vehicle, suddenly the airbag bursts open on his face, the airbag gets deployed, the person could end up in a fatal accident as a result of that. When the product recall happened, they went around finding what the root cause was. The root cause was they changed the assembly sequence because they were doing a value analysis, value engineering to reduce costs in terms of cycle time. When we look at these kinds of examples, it is important for us to understand that the alignment of the design for assembly requirements, the prerogatives with respect to Q&R are much higher because safety is involved as compared to cycle time reduction. Fewer components in an assembly would necessarily mean fewer cycle time reduction, fewer parts coming into assembly leading to fewer noise. What do I mean by noise? When a component interacts with another component in the common space, because of the tolerances they interact with each other, noise comes into the system as a result of interactions where each tries to occupy the other's space. That's exactly where assembly issues come into picture, either during assembly stage itself or subsequently down the line when it is performing. So when we are looking at this, just a minute. Is everybody able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You're able to see the screen? Suddenly my screen went into another mode. That's
Okay.
So when fewer components come into assembly, fewer things can go wrong. Individual component the part can be a complicated design, but if the assembly is simple, most of the problems have been taken care of. This is the paradigm shift that every design engineer has to instill upon himself or herself. The reason why we say this is primarily because we need to ensure that all the people who are working on any particular design needs to keep the design simple in terms of assembly, not in terms of the parts per se. The cost of poor quality as a result of assembly issues are higher. If I have more number of components going into assembly, what are the problems? More number of parts to be manufactured, more number of stations required, more number of people required, more number of fixtures required in terms of manufacturing, more number of fixtures required in terms of assembly, more number of fixtures inspection. So fewer number of components going into assembly. Even if the part cost is higher, the assembly cost is lower in terms of cost, in terms of quality and reliability. So simple parts do not make simple designs, simple assemblies do. If there is one thing that I want you to take home today from this webinar is this. Now, how is the part orientation and the location control now that we have a few parts which need to be put together as an assembly? Confirming the part definition coordinate system to the assembly coordinate system is what we need to do. In other words, the parts definition coordinate system has to be in alignment with how that part is going to sit in the assembly coordinate system, because that is how parts relate to each other. That is how parts interact with each other. The healthier interactions do not have noise in the assembly. When I say noise, I am not talking about the noise that comes as a result of vibration and harshness. I am talking about noise as a result of interactions between parts. The second one is the clear enumeration of the contact sequence of parts features in the upstream assembly. When I take a part, and orient and locate it with respect to an upstream part or a sub-assembly, which face touches what, which part face touches next, subsequently, and so on and so forth. So let us take this example. What is shown here is a swash plate pump. What you are seeing are the housing, the body, the rotor assembly, the bearings, the angular, tapered roller bearings, which prevent axial thrust, which contain the axial thrust, and then you have the flange. So if you look at, if I zoom in a little bit and you look at the assembly, you will see in the assembly of the body, from the right side, the flange comes in, the rotor comes in onto the bearing. Another bearing is slipped from the left side, and then the flange cover is put on top. What you see on the right side is an image of the assembly of the swash plate pump. So when I look at this housing assembly, the sequence of assembly is I put the insert the bearing on the right side, I put the rotor on the right side, insert the bearing on the left side, close the cover, then bring about the rest of the components on the right side and finish it and then lock it. When I look at enumerating the drawing for this particular part, you will see the first thing I need to put together is the datums. So what is going to be the datum? What is going to subsequently affect the assembly? It is the tapered roller bearing recess, which is nothing but the bore. So you can see on the right side lower, the circle around the datum A, that becomes my primary datum. Then comes B, which is the face, because the axial retention of the rotor is going to happen as a result of the flange face. So that becomes datum B. Now you have the axis position restraint, you have the face restraint. However, the rotation about the axis is not restrained. That's where C comes into picture, which is as cast or as molded or whatever it is. Using these three, datum D is referred to, which is the bore for the top vertical hole. When you take these three components together, A, B, and D, that is exactly what is used for referring to all the other features. So in other words, when I put the drawing together, I need to ensure that the datum selections are based on functional assembly. It represents mating features. Stability of the datums are guaranteed. The repeatability is assured because measurements are coming into picture. And then accessibility is guaranteed for inspection. If it cannot be accessed, of what good is it as an inspection dimension? Just because I have put the feature control frame on the drawing, it does not mean that every one of them is going to be an inspection dimension. Contrary to that, the ones which have the critical to quality are ballooned and inspected on the drawing based on the risk priority number. So here, the datum reference frame is formed in the part level based on how this component gets assembled upstream. Since this body is the first component in the assembly, the downstream parts locate with respect to this. Every one of them is related to the other. That's why we have used A, B, D over there. Datum selection is critical to avoid assembly issues and problems that come as a result of reliability subsequently down the line. Why do I say reliability? With respect to assembly, I take 10 different assemblies, I take 10 different characteristic performance requirements, I get 10 different values. They come within a band. If that band has to be contained, the assembly probability of assembling them together has to be contained. So when you look at the right side image, you are looking at the flange drawing. You will see that the bore, the OD of the flange insert is now the datum A. The face against which it butts against the body becomes datum B. With respect to these two datums, everything else is determined because it's a circular component. So nothing else is required. The pitch circle diameter is given as a basic dimension, not as a plus or minus dimension. This is the intent of putting this together on the drawing. Whatever is seen as ballooned in red, they are the inspection dimensions. Now note at the bottom, you have 2 position tolerances and 1 surface profile tolerance, which are not given as red because they don't have higher risk priority number. So the selection of datum from the DFA comes into picture, and then you have assignment of tolerances. Please understand, assignment of tolerances comes with the knowledge of the process capability. The next question comes from the person's mind is, I am not doing mass production design. I am doing unitary production design. Absolutely, but the same machine is being used for so many different operations. What is the process capability, the CP/CPK of that machine for the different operations that you can use it for? That needs to be brought in to see how far away from the centrality you would be, whether it would be a 3 sigma approach or a 6 sigma approach. So the process capability is required if the manufacturing comes back in your cross-functional team and tells you, I cannot manufacture it for these specification limits. Increase it. Then you come back and say, please give me your process capability so that I can study it and see its implications in my tolerance stackup analysis. The assignment of tolerance stackup starts with the process capability first, starts with the guidelines first, starts with machinery specifications first, and then gets refined at a subsequent stage by tolerance optimization. The form allowance on the datums is mandatory. For example, if you look at the previous slide, you will see that immediately as soon as I have put the datum A, I have not given the circularity or cylindricity tolerance for the bearing bore area. That's a mistake. However, for B, I have given perpendicularity with respect to A. And for C, I have given location with respect to B and perpendicularity with respect to A for the axis of C. Which means the moment I define each and every one of them, I need to understand that form allowance comes from size. It's not separate, contrary to general belief. Form allowance. Allowance means it comes from the size tolerance, typically between 10% and 1/3 max. Now, the moment you say datum B is provided, it is oriented with respect to datum A. So the orientation of B with respect to A, C with respect to B and A is guaranteed by these controls that are established on the drawing. So in other words, whenever we put the drawings together, we have to ensure that the form allowances are specified on the datums. The orientation control between the datums is classified. Plus or minus tolerances is only confined to the features of sizes, not for anything else. Angularity tolerance plus or minus is not correct. You can use it for chamfers, but not for angular positioned holes. It's incorrect. You have to use angularity allowance as given by the GD&T tolerances. Why? Because that's how you measure it. So the GD&T for form, orientation, and location control is what typically is given on any drawing based on fit, form, and functional requirements, based on prioritization on the RPN number. So the bonus tolerance that we provide for producing parts away from the MMC size limits have to be encouraged. For example, in this drawing, you will see the position tolerance is given at 0 for maximum material condition. What does it mean? The whole size is 11 plus or minus 15 microns, which means 10.985 to 11.015. The component can be produced at any one of these limits. When you approach 10.985, you get reduced tolerances with no tolerance at MMC. That's what it means. As you move away from MMC towards LMC, you get a bonus tolerance. How much is it? How far you have moved, that's how much you get. This concept of zero tolerancing empowers manufacturing to choose their process centrality according to their line capability, the process capability, and empowers them to get the maximum yield, while protecting the worst mating boundary at MMC. Why the designer should not give this to manufacturing? For maximizing the line yield so that the per piece cost can come down. This is exactly the way, folks, industry is moving. We need to understand that these kinds of concepts and technologies are far-reaching implications in the industries in which we work. If India has to grow to the next level, to the ecosystem of being the best in the world in terms of developing qualitatively better and reliability-wise better products and technologies. We need to incorporate these into our workflows today, if not earlier. Now, if you look at the reliability focus, you will see that, just give me a minute. This image is supposed to move, it's not moving. The reliability is typically based on the stress versus strain, stress amplitude versus life cycle curve. And you do a finite element analysis, you get back your results and you see where the amplitude of stresses are, you predict a life. But that you are doing it for nominal dimensions. You are not bringing in the noise factor called tolerances. However, on the right side, if you look at it, you will see a spread graph for every one of those amplitude ranges. You will see the cycles to failure keeps changing. This needs to be factored in. This is exactly how a probabilistic approach becomes a deterministic approach. So in other words, when we look at any design which we are coming up with on the reliability side, for example, you see the springs which we are using in the swash plate. If I use a high strength spring steel, I would get 1 million cycles. The cost of the spring would be 80 rupees. If I use a plain carbon steel, I would get 1,75,000 cycles, 175,000, 35 rupees it would cost. But what about my warranty? This is exactly where we said every quality and reliability comes at a cost. This option has to be given to sales and marketing. So at every stage, if we are able to give, this is the cost for this reliability, this is the cost for this reliability, the management and the sales team has a choice to go to the market and say, for this cost, you will get this, for this, you will get this, for this, you will get our underwriting with regard to warranty. A survey was done by a camera manufacturer. I'm deviating a little bit here. He had put up on his website one camera, and he had posted the cost of the camera is $1,500. He got 1 or 2 sales a month. Then he put 2. One of them was $1,500. The other one was $2,500. He started getting 5 or 6 $1,500, and then he started getting 1 or 2 for the second one. Then he put the third camera also on the list, saying $4,000, $2,500, and $1,500. Guess what? He started getting more than 10 because the camera is still the same. It's just the bells and whistles that we are putting together. Our marketing has to be empowered with options so that the product positioning that he gives to the customer in terms of quality and reliability, he drives home the point to the customer stating everything comes at a cost. This is the price, while this is the price. We have seen companies like Rockwell International, Emerson using this strategy all the time to win and capture markets. We need to adopt this. Now, I said earlier, simplified assemblies are what we require, not simplified parts. You look at this graph. System reliability for a series system, let us say. If the individual component reliability is 0.99, if the number of components in the assembly is 2, the reliability drops to, the system reliability drops to 0.95, 0.96. The same thing, if the number of components keeps on increasing, you see at 20, the reliability comes to 0.85, which is pretty bad. So as the reliability comes down, when the reliability per part comes down, as well as the reliability comes down when the number of components in the assembly goes up. So the fewer the components in the assembly, the higher the reliability. I want you to understand this and incorporate this in any decisions that you make in terms of product designs at your office. Now, here is an example I'm going to show you. I hope this animation works. You are seeing a rubber boot getting assembled on top of a ball joint. On the right side, this is a finite element analysis. Now, let's look at the left side. The operator is assembling the same thing. Watch the left hand of the operator as he assembles it. and the middle finger of the left hand of the operator as he operates it. This video contains an audio, so you may get a noise. Ignore the noise, but continue to watch the video, please. Oops. Now he takes the component, he puts the rubber boot on top of the ball joint. He takes the unit, places it on the fixture. Now imagine, remember the left hand and the left middle finger. He is balancing it on his left hand as the plunger comes in to assemble the unit. So what do we see here? The fixture is inadequate, as a result of which the stability of the part in the fixture is not repeatable. The design has to put a checklist and ensure that the fixtures are designed properly to meet the tolerance specifications that you have given on the design. You may say it's a part of tool design. Nevertheless, the issue is going to come to the doors of the design if we have not checked it. So in other words, our drawings have to be done in such a way that we eliminate the operator bias. Now, the fixture tolerances is what we need to concentrate on in addition to the part tolerance. For example, you look at the image on the right side for the plunger unit, cylinder unit, you will see that the diameter to depth ratio for the hole is pretty large. In other words, the tool will wander as it goes down. You may not be able to meet the position tolerance as given. So what they will do, they would drill one side, then turn the indexing fixture around, or move the tool to the other side and drill the other side. If you move the tool to the other side and you drill it, then you are utilizing the machine tolerance capability. If you are using an indexing fixture, you are sacrificing some of your working tolerances for the indexing fixture. So now the fixturing becomes important. So there are three kinds of fixtures that we look at: manufacturing fixture, assembly fixture, inspection fixture. The component that is being produced is a part of that assembly. We need to do a tolerance stackup to see if the tolerances we have provided can be achieved or not. Sit with the cross-functional team and tell them, enable them, empower them to achieve those tolerances by changing the designing of these and also in the sequence in which it is put together. So the machine may be capable. Is the fixture capable? So in other words, consistent quality comes in only when we work as a team in sync, and design looks at the big picture of the product quality and reliability at the customer place. The optimality of specifications that we give, that is, we are enumerating the tolerances. We have seen that when we give a tolerance and the customer and the supplier or the downstream manufacturing manufactures it, one day he comes and says, sir, can you give me a deviation? You say that, no, I don't need to give you a deviation. You have already produced it based on the drawing. Why are you asking for a deviation? That is because his process centrality moved out. If the problem comes in at the customer place side, you have given 1,000 components to the customer, 3 components have returned, and your person comes in and says, we need to change the drawing. The 997 components which were produced were based on that particular drawing. We need to investigate that instead of asking to change the drawings. So each assembly objective should have a tolerance stack vector loop, and the critical tolerances are driven by the RPN from the DFMEA. And we should have the process capability already known. Capturing the sources of variation is absolutely critical, and each contributor in the vector loop should be assessed for sensitivity for the objective. The optimization of the tolerances should be in such a way that to maximize the tolerance. If it is at the design stage, even the sequence change in assembly can reduce the tolerance stackup buildup, as a result of which it can be used for minimizing the overall tolerance amplification in the assembly stage. Optimization of dimensional tolerances across the vector loops should be weighed using a computer-aided tolerance tool by using the RPN as the weighing factor. Every CTQ should be driven by the risk priority number with demonstrated process capability to achieve it. There are 2 important things I keep emphasizing in any one of these in this webinar, and they are the design failure modes and effects analysis, the risk priority number associated with that, and Third one is the sequence of assembly and the assembly process enumeration. So now the fine balance between the cost of precision and the cost of poor quality is what we need to look at. So in other words, the cost of poor quality comes when the parts are in production. The fine balance means you have released a product, nobody else is having that product in the marketplace. Suddenly one person comes in after 6 months, he is reducing the price by giving an alternate product. Now you have to necessarily reduce your product cost or bring in another innovation. If you don't put the innovation, your product cost comes down. If you put in innovation, your product cost sustains. So the fine balance between cost of precision and cost of poor quality is driven home as long as the product is in service. The tolerances are alive. So tightening of the tolerances by design when the failure is reported is not really the solution. CTQs have to come from the RPN, objective selection and not subjective selection. Another thing is the tolerance variation could happen during function. For example, it could be as a result of expansion because there was heat transfer. It could be as a result of contraction because of differential temperature gradient. It could be as a result of pre-torquing deformation. It could be as a result of deformation changing the stiffness of the component, leading to other issues in performance. It could be an air gap variation during operation, typically in an air compressor, leading to eddies affecting performance. So different types of things have to be taken into consideration to carefully calibrate the tolerances. There is no silver bullet to it. So the variation risk management, the choice is given. If you look at the vertical y-axis, it is performance. Horizontal x-axis, it is tolerances and clearances. The performance becomes higher and higher as the tolerances become tighter and tighter. As the tolerances become tighter and tighter, look at the fourth quadrant, the manufacturing cost goes up exponentially. With better marketing and the cost on the left, the revenue and the cost on the left side, you will see necessarily with superior performance and better manufacturing with a higher cost, you don't really get your profitability is not there. You are at loss. However, with a robust design coming towards optimality of tolerance specifications and choice of manufacturing according to that, and with the strategy coming into picture, you see that the profitability is assured. So this is exactly where the risk management comes into picture. The three graphs are dependent on the data you already have in your organization. So in digital transformation, if you put that data, you will be able to pick up this graph without any issue. So the effect of the part tolerance in the assembly, you can simulate it and see it, and look at the assembly yield, look at the Monte Carlo diagram, look at the assembly shift, the histogram shift on the right side, fourth image that you're seeing over there. Or you can see how many components are having assembly issues on the left side, the noise which is coming in, sorry, the previous year. On the left side, you will see how many issues you will get on the computer itself a priori, even before the first component has been sent out for production. So the sensitivity of the tolerances in a part, what will affect what, the root cause, the connecting the dots can be done with this kind of a sensitivity approach. In any assembly, whether it is sheet metal with like gearboxes, with sheet metals, with combinations, anything you want, you can get it. So in other words, we have looked at the essences. We need to connect all the dots together. That's exactly where the DFQ&R process comes into picture. So the design for cost, quality and reliability objectives, measurable objectives are taken. They are split into assembly objectives and performance objectives. The DFMEA gives you the risk priority number. The design for assembly comes from your assembly objective. The design for life comes from your performance objective. And then from the design for assembly, you get your datum reference frames. From that, you put your tolerances, you do your tolerance analysis, bring in your cost of precision and cost of poor quality, put in your design failure, design for manufacture CP, CPK, and the risk priority number, and you do your optimization, put that as a critical to quality based on the RPN number as the KCs on the drawing, and then release the drawing after taking into consideration the design for cost, design for service, design for transportation, and design for performance requirements as well. So this DFQ&R process, at the end of the day, enables you to develop product design specification drawings based on quality and reliability through prism through which you see, and enable this downstream. So this is a dynamic event. So the CP/CPK keeps on changing. The COP, COPQ keeps on changing. The service requirements keeps on changing. The quality and the reliability objective keeps on changing. So everything is dynamic according to the business process and challenges you face in the marketplace. So the results of the DFQ&R process are: it eliminates your drawing errors by improper drawing schema, inadequate tolerancing. It identifies clearly the CTQs, the critical to quality and upfront. Intelligent manufacturing line yield prediction is possible. Incorporation of current process capability, current meaning it is live, and then decision making based on cost of precision versus cost of poor quality, and then objective decision making based on technical and business goals. Continued, you get your, if the processes are right, you get it first time right. If you don't get it first time right, you end up going through this process anyway, either as a result of manufacturing line feedback, quality line feedback, or as a result of customer, and you need to go back again anyway. The choice is ours. It eliminates rework if we do it upfront right. Cost drivers are known upfront. Target cost driven development process. Consistency in quality and reliability is assured. Remember, overall 85% of the product cost is driven by design. If we choose this approach, the overall product cost comes down. Necessarily, the product time development for the drawing is going to be higher, but the overall product development cycle time comes down. Now I leave the floor to questions from people. In the event you have any questions, please type them on the message box. We would be glad to answer the same. Kindly type it in the message box so that we will be in a position to answer your questions. Is design failure modes and effect analysis mandatory? Absolutely, because that is exactly where the risk is being brought into picture. The risk with regard to the design, the risk with regard to the quality and the reliability issues that are going to creep in are going to come in right there. So every due diligence has to be done for each and every one of them separately, so that the cross-functional team sits and analyzes and looks at, because that is the IPR. What have you considered in the design? What by committing it there, and what you have not considered in the design by omission are taking place, and that's the IPR of the organization. So the DFMEA is absolutely important. Any other question? In Industry 4.0, how do we go about implementing this? Industry 4.0 is specifically for smart systems to be put in place so that digitally the processes are enabled so that people get the information according to their roles and responsibilities. Information not being fed to the people according to their roles and responsibilities leads to what is called as productivity paralysis. So that the Industry 4.0 is nothing but an enabler. Once it is an enabler, then we need to ensure that it is live, it is always there. What are the data required for DFMEA? The design failure, DFMEA is different. DFMEA is design for manufacture and assembly. For design for manufacture, you need to understand what is the process capability. You get onto the line or to the supplier, take 30 trials, get the information, feed it and keep it. Every now and then you go and take a random sample, get that information and bring it in. Second one is with regard to assembly itself. Okay, you can prepare a checklist for design for manufacture, design for assembly, undercut, deburring, stress concentration removal, so many things you can put together. The checklist can be put together, put it as a part of the process on your workflow automation digitally, then it takes care of, irrespective of whether it's a new person coming into the organization or not, they would be able to adhere to that and give whether they have confirmed to that or not, and then the drawing can be released, approved and released. Any other question? If there's no further question, we would like to take this opportunity. Oh, there's one more question. I'm working on safety device, whether it would fail safe. Is there a separate document to be done similar to DFMEA for fails? Okay, there are two kinds of system. One is called as the fail-safe design. The other one is called as copy-proof design. Third one is called as foolproof design. Three are there. Copy-proof is you don't want somebody else to copy it. Fail-safe is in the event of failure, the safety should not be compromised. The third one is foolproof design, where a person who's not trained, if he's using it, still should be able to use it. In fail-safe design, the risk priority number would be very high, as a result of which the continuous monitoring will take place on the drawing. What type of industry is more applicable to DFQ&R concept? This question keeps coming from a lot of different people saying that we work in structures, we work in we don't work in precision areas and things like that. The drawing the standard does not differentiate between whether it is unitary production or mass volume production. If we look at the number of issues that came subsequently down the line after we manufactured it and deployed it at the customer place, that would tell us where the quality issues are, where the reliability issues are. So that dictates, not really the vertical segment in the industry. We are working in manufacturing. We never made a product again. Then how to implement DFMEA? Even if you have not made the product again, you have supplied a product to a customer. It's one of a kind. What were the problems that they faced in that product? What were the reliability issues that came in? Is the customer satisfied? If he is satisfied and he is not giving a 10 out of 10, why is he not giving you a 10 out of 10? Go back and look at it, take those points, put them as a checklist so that the next time when you do a similar kind of design or you use the similar process, those are incremented into your system so that you will be in a position to reduce the feedback from the customer in the negative sense with regard to the quality and reliability issues. If you have come back and said that, yes, the customer does not have a problem, we don't have any issues, the next question I would ask you is, did you make enough money on that product? If you say no, go back and look at what was the cost of precision, what was the cost of poor quality, why you did not make it. Then you will see that this process is relevant. How the impact of quality and reliability on human behavior and skills? Absolutely, they have a ripple effect on the human behavior. See, for example, you go to a meeting and your supplier comes back and says, relax the tolerance. You shout at him saying that no way, you have to do this. You empower him and you say to him that if you don't do this, this cost will go up. Even if you take 10 rupees more, please do it so that my overall cost of poor quality, which is 1,000 rupees, will not happen. Everybody is looking at their part quality. People have to look at the assembly quality and reliability, not at the part level. So the issues that come and propagate are typically dealt with by human beings. If I keep coming back to if I buy a washing machine and I keep having problems during the warranty period, would I refer this washing machine to another person who wants to buy it? No, it's got a ripple effect in the market. Good news may not travel faster, but bad news travels faster, especially in terms of quality and reliability issues. So in other words, the product or the company's reputation comes to be at stake, and that we cannot afford. That is called as the hidden cost, which never gets monetized. That's the opportunity cost as well. As said by you, 85% of the product performance depends on design. What will be the minimum considerations to follow for the startup company since they push for the release of the product ASAP? Okay. The release of the product ASAP means you go and give a conscious decision to the management saying that these are the risks involved. Then the management takes a call whether those risks can be contained, mitigated, or need to be avoided. Then they would give you additional time to fix those issues before the drawing comes out. I have seen a lot of companies, especially startup companies, where venture capitalists are coming into picture who want their return on investment of their money faster. What they don't understand is it is a long-term game. It's not the short-term game. So in other words, if the 85% of the product cost is going to be determined by design, it's not only the cost of precision, but it's also the cost that your customer is going to end up with subsequently down the line, or you are going to end up with, as a result of which there is an erosion in your profitability. So once you put this process in place and you tell the people, this is the cost of precision, but actually this is not the cost of poor quality. These are the areas where we need to address. The risk priority numbers are pretty high. If you want me, I can release you the drawing. However, these are fraught with these risks. The moment you give the risk priority number and the containment action plan or the corrective action plan, which would be required subsequently down the line, you give a heads up to the management. They give you the time space for you to come back and revisit and make sure that the job is complete. Any other questions? If there's any other question, kindly post the same. If there are no other further questions, we would like to take this opportunity to thank you for having attended this program. We have a series of webinars coming up. The next one is going to be on 16 steps in finite element validation for reliable product development. As a part of the technology series, we will intimate to the details. So if you are interested, please get in touch with us. We would be able to give you the information so that you can come for the next webinar as well. We hope you found this useful. If you found this useful, please kindly provide your feedback so that we can improve our webinar quality next time onwards. Thank you very much. Have a good day.